Here's a fun fact to get us started tonight. Before every recording, any Zoom call, any meeting I have, anything digital, I always splash on cologne. Is that weird? My name is Aaron Calafato. You're listening to Night Stories. It's 11:33 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm broadcasting from my garden level. I guess that's the case. Garden level basement, or maybe it's just a pure basement. Garden level's when you're halfway in the ground, right? You'll have to let me know that. So, by the way, last week I got an hour into the live stream. I'm telling stories. You all were on fire. And let's just cross our fingers. I know we got comments already streaming in that I'm able to get through the whole stream tonight because our internet cut out and we had to figure our way through it. Tried it, didn't work, but we got a good solid hour in. And so I figured we should just do almost a part two. Last week's question or theme was if you had a time machine, if a DeLorean came to your front yard, right? It doesn't even come into the driveway. It just pulls up onto the freaking lawn. There's Doc. What 90s memory would you go back to? Well, started telling stories, got through about an hour, had some great conversations back and forth in the comments, And before it went out, I just started talking about 90s restaurants. Specifically, I was talking about 90s chain restaurants. And I have a theory, I have a thesis that I'm going to work with tonight. That 90s chain restaurants, for those of us who grew up in the 90s, especially those Zennials, maybe the Gen Xers, hey, boomers, that works for you too, millennials, across that late 80s, 90s, early aught years, there was something special in the chain restaurant game. It wasn't for everybody, but it was for most of you. It was for a lot of you, not for everybody. And the prompt tonight in the pre show asks a very specific question, and I got a lot of stories to tell about it. And I know we already have comments coming in that I'm going to address. And the question is, what's your favorite chain restaurant? And more specifically, what's your favorite 90s chain restaurant? Because I have to tell you, there's something special about that. And I have a theory as to why. And I got stories to follow. But before we get to that, let's talk about you. How are you doing tonight? Where are you at right now? You getting ready for bed? Are you already in bed? Getting ready for sleep? You doing some chores? You got the washer and dryer going? Maybe doing some dishes? Maybe just trying to unwind, man. Long day? I get it. Maybe your night's just starting. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you're just getting warmed up. Maybe you're working third shift. Maybe you can't sleep. Whatever the situation, I'm here. I'll be your guiding voice. I'll be your troubadour, your extemporaneous storyteller from Northeast Ohio, guiding you through the next couple of hours. I say God willing because you don't know. I mean, we had a good track record with the live stream, but we'll see. I'm checking the comment section here in my chat stream, and I'm already noticing on Riverside, I not getting the comments there, but I do have as a backup. You learn, folks. You learn. I have the comments on YouTube going, and hopefully they're coming through. I also have a tab open for a couple of the other platforms where we're streaming. We are streaming live on YouTube. You can join the chat there, talk with me. And as we're going, let's talk about this. What is your favorite chain restaurant? Maybe it's now, but think back if you were around during the 90s. Talk with me. We're live streaming on YouTube. We're live streaming on, I believe, Facebook. And we're live streaming at 7minutestoriespod.com/night stories. We're live streaming on Riverside and about 4,222 other places. And if on those places I do not get to your comment, please know I appreciate it. If I don't get to your chat, just know I'm in the zone. I'm telling a story. I can't get to it. Or maybe the Omni chat feature isn't working. Listen, almost a month into piloting this show, and so many good things, so many. Maybe I'll get into announcement tonight. I got an announcement that I wanted to share with everybody in terms of some news and some good things that are going to happen here. So I'll talk to you about that shortly. Maybe I'll get to it. Uh, but some really good things happening week to week. But if I don't get to your comment in the live stream, just know that we're still working out the kinks. But I think I still have access to YouTube, so I'm going to be monitoring those comments there. I also have access to Riverside Studio. I have access to a feature we have where you can log in 7minutestoriespod.com/night stories. So we'll get to it. All right. Already have some comments coming in uh, about 90s chain restaurants. Your favorite? Dwayne already chimed in earlier this evening. I'm just scrolling through here. Olive Garden, man, it's like you read my mind. Dwayne, we got an Olive Garden story. I got one. As a waiter at Olive Garden, I'm going to talk to you about, and as a patron of Olive Garden. Olive Garden, great 90s restaurant. There's something special there. What else we have? We had another person jump in there. Applebee's. My gosh, Applebee's was fantastic. It's like your favorite neighborhood grill, right? Is that the thing? Your neighborhood Applebee's. Man, we'll talk about Applebee's. What else do we got? Raymond, Denny's. I consider Denny's a chain, Raymond. I really do. I think, it is what is it? It's like a diner chain. Sadly, I just was driving the other day and I saw we had almost a 40s, 50s themed Denny's here where I live, and it was around for a long time. My wife knows this. My friends know this. Growing up in high school, we went to Denny's. I got Denny's stories, man. That was a place where there were a lot of memories. We'd go and they tore it down because it went downhill. It would just got to a place where it just went downhill. They tore it, and I'm driving by and I see it. It's like not even there's not a scrap of metal left, just the dirt, just the trucks digging stuff up, empty, and they're putting a car wash there. Time moves on. I get it. But damn, there is a difference when you drive by a building and the building is gone. That's when you know things have changed. When the building's completely gone, things have shifted. You know what I'm saying? When it's still there and maybe it's vacant or it's not occupied or whatever, even if it gets transformed into a new thing, you know what I'm saying? You still have the memories there. But when that building goes away, when they destroy it, ouch. That one hurts. So I drove by a Denny's recently and I'm looking at that. And I'm just like, my memories. But then you realize, wait a second, memories, they're not in the physical, they're in the metaphysical, they're in my brain. You could say, well, they're in your brain and that's physical. Yes, but is the electrons and the energy and all that kind of stuff going through there? I don't know. There's physical properties to it, atomic properties to it. My point is, even without the physical thing, the memory remains. And that's what's beautiful here. Okay, I'm going to get through a couple of your answers here. What else do we got? Before I start just ripping stories, we have Applebee's. What else are people saying? Chad's jumping in. Chad, Hardee's biscuit and gravy. Come on now, Hardee's. There's a story there. I know you have a story. I got some Hardee's stories. Maybe that'll come in there tonight. Becca, Taco Bell. Damn, if we have enough time here, Becca, I'm gonna hit up Taco Bell. I got tacos. I got Taco Bell stories out the wazoo. Okay, let's get started here. I will get back to some of these comments. I will talk with you throughout when I can multitask. But let's start with the stories here, some memories, and really start with a thesis that I have about why 90s chain restaurants made us feel special. And I say us because not all of us, it's not, it's many of us because some people are like, screw chain restaurants. I'm not going to chain restaurants. Or they laugh at you. Ha ha ha, chain restaurants. You go to that? Oh, really? You go to a chain restaurant? We got always had that coastal relative. Love them. But if they're not from, an outer ring, inner ring suburb, if they're not from that lower to middle class, kind of working your way up, sometimes working your way down, sometimes trying to work your way back up, there's something there, right? There was something there. And that's my theory. My theory is that the chain restaurant created an illusion. Now, some people were in on the joke and some people weren't, as my wife says. My wife's chiming in perfect. Yeah, shiny Denny's. By the way, yeah, that's a hyper local conversation, Corey. Corey's talking about the shiny Denny's that I said was just demolished. We drove by it with tears in our eyes. And the dirty Denny's was another one across town that is no longer there either. That's a debate. I mean, what Denny's are you going to? Oh man, we're primed and ready to go. Denny's, I'm gonna get to that. Let's talk a little bit though about why these 90s chain restaurants made people feel special. They made people feel special, many of us, because you felt like royalty. Well, first there was a price thing, right? One, it was always a privilege to go out to eat. I don't know about anybody else, and everyone's got a different story. Everyone's got a different truth. But for us growing up, going out to eat was a big freaking deal. We ate home Monday through Friday. I was lucky, but both my parents were great cooks. My dad's side, Italian American, my mom's side, a mutt, lots of different things, but they were farmers from, going way back to Indiana, the Hoosier state. And so my mom's side was very sort of farm to table, literally, just that kind of comfort food, turkey and gravy, stews, pot roasts, all this kind of stuff. My dad's side was still a lot of comfort food, but Italian American style. So I got great cooks at home, but for other reasons, right? Economic reasons. It was like going out to eat was a special thing, but it wasn't just a thing where it was like, okay, we want to save money. It was because we saved our money. Families save their money to go out to eat on Friday and Saturday night. You know what I'm saying? There's this place 20 minutes down the road called, well, we called it the Hill, Restaurant Hill in Montrose. It's a little bit west of Akron. And where we were coming from, when we would drive to the Hill, you drive down Route 18, long stretch of road, 15 minutes. And you get there. I say long stretch, 15 minutes. I'm Ohio, right? You talk to my Texas friends, they're like 3 hours is a long stretch. But you're going down, and I remember on a Friday night, my mom would get us in the car. She'd have her Chevy Celebrity. Sometimes my brother would ride backwards in the trunk, and we'd, flick off the semis or flip off the semis and stuff like that, being little shits. But my mom would take us on this drive, and it was special. We'd get dressed up. We'd get dressed up. Get dressed up. Where are we going? Olive Garden. Shout out to Dwayne early in the pre-show. Said his favorite chain restaurant, Olive Garden. Some solid items. As an Italian American, there's some solid items at Olive Garden. Okay? We know this isn't real Italian food. We know it's not even real Italian American food, but there's inspiration there. There's inspiration, but there's some solid items there. You can't be too bougie about stuff like this. You really can't. More on Olive Garden soon. My mom, we're in the Chevy Celebrity, right? And all week long, by the way, we had been eating meatloaf, turkey and gravy, doing the pot roast thing, doing the leftovers. We were a leftovers family. You have pasta one night, you got pasta for 3 nights, and you can make it work. You can make pasta work across 3 days. You know what I'm saying? You can go have that first pasta, that second one you put in the fridge, it kind of absorbs the sauce. Don't worry about that. Here's a trick. I got a hack for you. You take that pasta out of the microwave, add a little bit of water. You can even add a little bit of chicken stock, then a little olive oil. You put it in the microwave. You put a paper plate or a wet paper towel over top of that. You heat that up again, and you get this nice dance of the marinara sauce or the red sauce or whatever you got going, and then the olive oil and the chicken stock, and it kind of steams it together. It repurposes it, it reconstitutes that in the microwave. But hey, it's good, but don't get me wrong, I'd rather be eating out every night. I'd rather be going to Chi Chi's. I'm going to talk about that. I'd rather be going to Olive Garden in the 90s. I'd rather be going to Denny's. I'd rather be going to Fuddruckers. I'd rather be going to Bob Evans. Yes, still around, Bob Evans. Hell, I'd rather go to Taco Bell because you're a kid. Who wants to listen? I love good food, but I also love just showing up and food being there. I love walking into that restaurant. I can smell the smells. You're pulling up to a Longhorn. You know there's a. Get me the outlaw ribeye. Are you kidding me? I love it. So all week long, we're putting in time. We're putting in work. We're eating the leftovers, which means what? Friday night something special. Because going out to eat in the 90s was special. We're in this Chevy Celebrity. We're driving out, and we come up on Montrose the Hill, and it's like I can only imagine it being like the Emerald City for Dorothy. Where are we going? We're going to the Emerald City to see the wizard. And you know when they had that scene, follow the yellow brick road, and they're going, and they see the Emerald City? That's what the hill was like, man. The shining lights, Longhorn, Outback, TGI, TGIF. Thank God it's Fridays, right? My, you, they're all the same restaurant, by the way, right? But all of them were there. Fuddruckers was there for a minute. We had a non-chain. I think it's a non-chain. Maybe my wife was mistaken. She goes, "It wasn't a chain." Don Pablo's, is that a chain? Someone drop a comment for me. But we had some amazing restaurants on this hill. But I got to tell you, that night with my mom, my brother, and that Chevy Celebrity, we 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 put in the work all week. We didn't eat out. We had that money, and I remember I'm dressed up, bro. I got to listen. It's 1992. I got a I got a button-up purple silk shirt. You know I have some cool water cologne on. Maybe some brute. If I'm feeling really dangerous, maybe some skin bracer. Jack Palance. Jack Palance would do these commercials. I'm going old school here. Old school. But if you look this up, look up on YouTube Jack Palance, the actor who had this voice, and we do skin bracer commercials. But I'd be dressed up. That's what you do. And my mom would take us to Damon's. Damon's ribs, man. Damon's. And like I was saying before I got interrupted last week, we show up to Damon's. It's a party already. Ribs are cooking, baked potatoes, apps. What do you got? Spinach dip? Go for it. Listen, I know it's supposed to be night stories. Maybe this is turning into night snacks. That's okay. If you're winding down right now, that's okay. Don't blame me if you all of a sudden have an urge to run out and get something to eat. It happens. It happens. My mom pulled up to Denny's on the hill, and the parking lot is packed, dude. I'm like packed. And if you didn't have a reservation, it's over. You don't have a res at Damon's, it's over. You're there for a minimum 40-minute wait. You know that feeling when you walk in to a restaurant and you realize you didn't call in for a reservation, lines out the door. First thing you do, you pull that car up and you're looking, and if there's people sitting outside on the bench, especially fall, winter, it's over, dude. You're an hour. You're minimum an hour. And what I love is you got to watch people walk up to the hostess stand as if the hostess or the host is just going to seat you. I look at the optimism, and sometimes it's delusional. It's a delusional look when they walk up to the hostess stand. They're like, "Table of four for Johnson," and they're like, "Yeah, it's going to be a while." Well, how long are we talking, sir? Did you see that there's 150 people not only in the Damon's line to get into the door in the parking lot? There's people out there smoking, just waiting for their turn. That's how popular it was. 90s chain restaurants. To this day, they still are. They're more special in the 90s. More special in the 90s. There was something magic. People are dressed to the nines. I got my purple silk shirt. My mom has a dress on. My brother had a little button up and a tie. No one was messing around. No one's rolling in sweatpants and Crocs. I'm not trying to get off my lawn here. I'm just saying, no one was rolling in PJs. You're showing up in PJs? No. Royalty came to Damon's. Royalty in the 90s came to TGI Fridays. Uh, Royalty came to Olive Garden. And in Damon's was fantastic. You get in there. They had the trivia. They got the big screen TVs. The noise. You didn't know where to put your attention. For someone like me, like ADD or ADHD, whatever this is, I got a, I call it an artistic brain. My point is, you didn't know where to put your attention. I didn't know if I wanted to slay in trivia and kick ass in trivia or watch whatever of 16 games they had going on. Is it the Cleveland at the time Cleveland Indians, now Cleveland Guardians, Cleveland Browns playing? Is it college football season? What's on the screen? Next thing you know, your popcorn chicken comes up, or maybe you ordered the French onion soup. You got a half rack of ribs coming up. Everyone's happy. And I ask myself this all the time because so much of these stories and these night stories are so fun, man, because I'm always thinking about nostalgia and asking myself, am I lying? Am I lying to myself? Was it was it really that magical, or is this just a filter, right? Because you all have done this. You've all remembered something, a restaurant, and you go back and it's just not the same. But the whole point is maybe it's not the food. I think my wife just messaged in and said, "I'm eating. Let's go. Gotta eat." Sorry, it's not night stories anymore. It's night munchies. Oh, eating good in the neighborhood. Is that Applebee's? And that night at Damon's with my mom, my brother, that memory is there because we felt like we were part of the upward mobility of the American dream. And I think those chains existed to tap into that market. And I got to tell you, we're all part of the illusion. And I knew it was an illusion. I knew this wasn't a country club. I knew that this was something that could be made affordable to people who had a little bit of extra, but you felt special. You felt like this was fun, and more importantly, you're there with people you love. And the food wasn't half bad. That's the point. It's not 5 star. I've done the 5 star thing. It's not 5 star. It's not even home cooked in the way that you love a home cooked meal. But you know what? It was good enough where you take those leftovers home. You didn't finish those 3 ribs that are still on the bone. Put them in the styrofoam box with your twice baked potato. You take that home. You reheat that bad boy for lunch. Come on now. Those chain restaurants in the 90s were special because that made us, many of us, feel like we were part of something special. They were accessible. There were some things you just couldn't go to. We couldn't go to a 5 star steakhouse. Couldn't. Didn't have the money. Well, we can go to Damon's. We could go to Chi Chi's. Oh, there's another one. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Dwayne's talking about chicken gnocchi. Let's go. You know what? You got the tour of Italy at Olive Garden. Dwayne, that's a beautiful thing. They also have a chicken scampi that's very, very good. And the breadsticks at Olive Garden. Folks, no one's sponsoring this. This is just us talking about chain restaurants and why they were different in a good way in the 90s. What was different about the culture? What was different about the experience? Was it just our memories? Are we deluding ourselves to think it was so special? No, I'm telling you we weren't. And I can tell you this because you walked into an Olive Garden in 1994 and everyone was wearing cologne. They were dressed up. They were going out. Dwayne knows this. Food's good. Red Robin. There it is. Great jingle, by the way. Red Robin. Yum. Michael chiming in with tumbleweed. What a deep cut that is, Michael. Tumbleweed. Hey, listen, I don't know if they're in business anymore. I've seen them come and go, but they were there. Tumbleweed is a great cut. Michael's coming with tumbleweed. Chi Chi's is another place, and they're making a comeback. Check it out. Look it up right now. Chi Chi's, they're making a comeback. I believe someone associated, whether it was a kid, let's look it up right now while I'm talking to you. Chi Chi's is making a comeback. And I think it's someone related to the owner. Yeah, basically, they're trying to come back. Now, we know the story initially with Chi Chi's didn't end well. There's some stuff happening, some health stuff. One restaurant, it's like one apple. One apple spoils the whole bunch. One bad apple spoils the whole bunch. They had some issues. There was some hepatitis problems at Chi Chi's, but damn, before things got bad, weren't they so good? You know what? When I go to an American style Mexican restaurant, or as they make Mexican food in the chain style for American consumption, listen, I understand. We're talking here. You got to look at chain restaurants like this. Feel me here. You got to look like at chain restaurants for what they are. You can't, at least for me, you can't be so bougie where you're like, oh, I'll never go to a chain. Okay, that's cool. That's you. But for me, it's like, no, I can appreciate it for what it is. It's kind of like a B movie, right? Like, I like it. There's some things that are just, if you know what they are, you can appreciate them more. So whenever I go to a Mexican restaurant, I'm I'm always just looking for a crunchy taco. Ask my wife, crunchy ground beef taco, lettuce, cheese. If you can get that right, you're in good business. I'm telling you, Chi-Chi's Crunchies tacos in the early to mid 90s were off the chain. They had almost like a white tortilla shell that was fried. The meat seasoning, whatever that proprietary mix was, get out of my face with that. It was so good. I remember they would they'd lay them down almost like on a diagonal, like they were family, three tacos, just kind of leaning on each other, like a sleepy couple, and had a little bit of rice, and they had the plate, the sour cream, the refried beans. Someone's singing "Happy Birthday." They got the hat on. I know it's Americana. I know it emerged in the 19 mid 70s where things got weird. There was an explosion of these chain restaurants, but damn, Chi Chi's was great. You can still find the salsa, but I'm glad to hear they're making a comeback. Hopefully, they make it right. But I will never forget going to Chi-Chi's. The same thing as going to Olive Garden. You dressed up, you went there, you partied, you had fun, and then you got the fried ice cream. If you got the fried ice cream, you're living large. You have room for fried ice cream. That was a birthday treat. I would have I would have birthday parties and go to Chi-Chi's. Ah, from the decor to the way it smelled, everything. God, send me back there. So this is almost like a prayer. Please send me back. Michael chiming in. Chi-Chi's was the bomb. Agreed. Agreed. Angel, nice to hear from you again or see your writing again. I don't know how to. When someone messages, it's like I'm hearing, but I'm not hearing. I'm reading. So you know what I'm saying. Angel gave me her top three: Olive Garden, Chi-Chi's. Oh, Chili's. I want my baby back, baby back. Right? We're. This is a damn commercial, but it's not. No one's sponsoring this yet. You know they're coming. Who else is chiming in? My wife, Corey. I couldn't tell you. I love tumbleweed. Wasn't it great? Tumbleweed. Whew. I think it's a sad story for tumbleweed. I think they're out. Maria, so glad to have you back here. It looks. Hey, I think we're an hour in. I was telling everybody, Maria, at the start of this. I think we're almost an hour in. This is almost a part two of last week, so I'm fulfilling my promise. And now we're talking about 90s chain restaurants that made us feel special. I have a theory that there was something about that 10-year period and that chain restaurants were just part of the American dream. They were a little bit of an illusion for those of us who were working class to feel like we were royalty for an evening. Maria chimes in, I'm eating marshmallows and standing still as possible. Oh, you're at a campground. You're amazing. Oh, that's fantastic. Hope you have a great time out there. By the way, Maria, I think it's a perfect night, isn't it? I'm assuming because listen, I could have turned this whole live into a weather. We're moving into fall, but I'm saving it for next week or maybe the week after. Maybe mid September. I'm going to do a fall live stream where we're doing fall memories, fall stories, fall nostalgia, autumn, whatever you want to call it. We're going full fall. But Maria, have a fun time camping, and thanks for tuning in. You're amazing. Dwayne, whatever it takes to listen and enjoy this show. Oh, that's great. Dwayne, thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Maybe this is a great time to chime in really quick because I got, it looks like the Omni stream is working and I'm having a hard time catching up with all of these. Thank you, those who are tuning into Facebook. 7minutestories.com/night stories on YouTube and Riverside as well, and the other 642 other places we're streaming. Either way, thank you for being here. I want to let you know season 6 of my podcast 7 Minute Stories, which really is the nexus and the fertile soil for where this show started. 7 Minute Stories, that's the main foundation of everything I do from a storytelling standpoint. Season 6 starts mid-September, so we're looking at the second week. And man, I'm already looking at the board here. I have some incredible stories. But season 6, all new stories. Right now, we've been doing, a lot of the best of season 2. But tune in to season 6 of 7 Minute Stories. Also, I just got off the phone today with now has become a friend of mine, Thomas Nicholas. You probably know him from his film work early in his life. He was, a young actor, a child actor. He was the main character, Henry Rowan Gardner, in Rookie of the Year, King in Kid Arthur's Court, Kid in King Arthur. Come on now, here we go. Let's try it again. Kid in King Arthur's Court. He was in that movie, and then he was in the American Pie series. We were both laughing about this because going back and listening to watching those, it's like, oh no. And now he's been touring as a musician for years, and he's actually, I won't do this for him, he's launching his own show, which I'll let him talk about. But I just got off the phone with him today, and Thomas Nicholas is going to be joining me every month, once a month, here on Night Stories. So what I'm going to be doing is opening up like probably I haven't decided if I'm going to do middle of the show, beginning of the show, end of the show, how we're going to do it. It's probably whenever they can come on. He's going to be joining me once a month for a sort of a surprise call in. And I won't drop any names here because I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but I can tell you there are some people that are interested in coming on to this series. Not 7 Minute Stories because it's 7 Minute Stories. Not my show, The Storytelling University, which if you haven't watched or listened to, you should do that. But this series, Night Stories, there are people across the entertainment industry that have shown interest in coming on here and just having a chat. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just the guy from Ohio, the weird storytelling guy in his basement in Ohio. But I think I've talked to some folks at different PR agencies who have said that their clients, actors and writers and directors and people of note and intellectuals and everybody, influencers, the people that I have heard that this is an interesting value proposition for them because what they want to do is they're doing these, you see all the clips of them doing promotion for the movie and stuff like that, or whatever book they got going on. And it becomes like a machine, right? And a lot of these interviews they're doing, they're not great. They're not being asked any, it's tiring for them. They want to be able to come on a channel like this, like my YouTube channel here, especially we got over 35,000 subscribers. And even though we're building the show, they want to come on and they want to just do a surprise drop-in phone call. So look for Thomas Nicholas to jump on. I think we're going to be having him on in September. And then month to month, we're going to be looking to add more surprise call ins. Sometimes it'll be a celebrity, sometimes it'll be a friend, somewhere in between. But looking forward to sharing that with you. Okay, let's get back to the stories and some of the comments here. You're listening to Night Stories. I'm Aaron Calafato. I'm going to be your guide for the rest of the evening. We have crossed into morning, folks. Hey, it's early for me. The night's just getting young. 12:09 a.m. It's now transition from August 28th, 2025 to August 29th, 2005. So far, it's a good start to the day. Apparently, Corey is telling me that there are tumbleweeds in Ohio. You know, that sounds great. Let's have an adventure, Corey. Let's go and find a tumbleweed. And don't they have bloomin' onions too, or something of that? Didn't they compete? Wasn't there a competition? The bloomin' onion competition. Tumbleweed almost felt like the American version of Outback. I mean, Outback's American, but you know the whole Outback thing, right? It's like Outback, Australia. We better get out there. Okay. So I was talking about Chi Chi's earlier. Hope they make a comeback. What other 90s restaurants do you love? One that made you feel like a king or queen. One that holds a memory for you that you always want to hold on to and maybe makes you smile. I got some here. Listen, how about I start with one that didn't make me smile? We were talking about how great Olive Garden is to be a patron of to eat at. I was a waiter. I was a waiter at Olive Garden. When I was at New Jersey, and I'm living in New Jersey, I'm bridging tunneling into New York City and training as an actor. I was looking for a job. I worked a bunch of weird hours. You know, it's like I say this all the time. When you're a artist, you're creative. Weird hours, weird jobs. So if you want a career like that, it's weird hours and weird jobs. So I had a lot of weird jobs. I did room service in New Jersey at a Holiday Inn. Yes, they had room service at this Holiday Inn. It was fancy. Okay. I also started working at an Olive Garden. Can I tell you really quick why I started working at the Olive Garden instead of the Blockbuster that was across the street? Yes, this was a Blockbuster in 2006, so they were still hanging on. Little side quest here. I'm in New Jersey. I'm trying to get a bunch of different weird jobs so that I can support going into the city and training as an actor. And I was accepted into a conservatory. And so there's lots of money, lots of commuting, lots of credit card debt. I just needed cash. So I had the room service job in New Jersey. And then I'm waiting tables at the Olive Garden. We're going to get to that in a second. I don't know if anybody else out there waited tables. Ooh, we could do a whole show, a whole evening on the stories of waiting tables. But I go over to the Blockbuster and I apply for the job. I go on their computer. They have an assessment you're supposed to take, like a personality test. I take their assessment. All of a sudden, and I'm not kidding you, a red flashing alarm, like on the manager's computer behind the main desk, starts going off. Um, what's wrong? Manager goes, "You're red flagged." And what was crazy is when they told me I was red flagged, I thought about 5 years earlier at another Blockbuster in Ohio. I'm trying to get a job as a college student, just starving eating ramen noodles at a Blockbuster in Perrysburg, Ohio. I go to this Blockbuster and I take this personality test. It's not. It was just basically like, who are you? What are your values? And I get it. They're trying to suss. They're trying to vet who they have at a Blockbuster. I think that's a little bit intense, but we all know Blockbuster's choices ultimately led to its demise. And, maybe one of them wasn't hiring me. Okay, no sour grapes. My point is, 5 years prior to the New Jersey Blockbuster, I'm taking this personality test. And I, if you can't tell by my storytelling and my kind of extemporaneous style here, I tend to overthink things. And there was a question that came up on this personality test, and it said, "Have you stolen anything before?" Now, before you start making fun of me, you have to understand, I probably thought they were smarter than they were. I thought it was a trick question. Now, when you think about stealing, there's varying degrees of this. In fact, and I'm not going to get too heady here, but there are varying degrees of stealing, meaning if you were to take a chip, a potato chip, from your sibling, did you steal from them? Yeah, you could just say, no, I just took the chip. Well, no, that technically that's stealing. Okay, moreover, if your sibling, your brother, sister, worked, bought the potato chip with their money, and then you stole it, you took it from them, is it stealing? Yes, it is. And you can go down the gradations, right? And I'm not trying to make this sort of a moral case, but I'm saying there's these different levels. And you could say someone is in a drugstore and they steal a pack of gum. Is that stealing? Yes, it is. Stealing shouldn't steal. Now, if someone's starving and they steal some food, is it stealing? Yes, it is. But there's a different quality to this, correct? Meaning we think differently about the fact that they're stealing when they're hungry. Here's my point. When Blockbuster, and by the way, you're asking, why are you thinking this way while applying to Blockbuster? Because I'm out of my mind. It's, right? Just, I didn't know how to play the game. So they asked me if I stole something. I thought, everyone has taken something in their life. This is a trick question, I thought to myself. They're trying to trick me. And so I say, yes, I did. And then it follows up and it says, what did you do? And I said, I stole a taco from my brother because one time we went to Taco Bell and I stole a taco. Here's the point. I was red flagged in Blockbuster. And immediately when I submitted that, I walked away and said, hey, maybe I'll get a call back. And she goes, hey, just so you know, you won't be interviewed because the computer flagged this application as a personality type that is not hireable. So now I'm like, I'm never going to work in my life. I feel like I had a criminal record. I go into a Blockbuster trying to apply for a job to be a good citizen. Next thing you know, I walk out. I'm a felon. That's what I felt like. Okay. Flash forward 5 years, I'm at that Blockbuster. I think they they can't know about it. It's in a different state. That was in Ohio, the story I just told you. Now this one's in New Jersey. They knew about it. It was still in the system. I was red flagged. I never applied. I never worked at a Blockbuster. I just went there as a customer. Still love Blockbuster. But that's why I didn't work at Blockbuster. But what I did, though, across the street, there was an Olive Garden. And the reason why I applied at the Olive Garden, because I was duped into the fact that the Olive Garden breadstick and endless breadstick and soup thing, I'm all about it. I told you I'm Italian American. I know what it is. But even my grandfather, I know he's God bless him. I know he's in heaven. He won't mind if I tell you this. This guy knows food, knows Italian food. Grew up, I mean, Italians that first generation, right? Every once in a while, when I visit him, he goes, "Let's take a trip." I said, "Where are we going?" He said, "We're going to Olive Garden." I said, "Grandpa." He goes, "Shh, don't tell anybody." He goes, "I love their zuppa toscana. I love their potato soup and their salad and their breadsticks and the dressing." He goes, "If your grandmother ever found out about this, she'd be ashamed. If my mother, God rest her soul, ever knew I was going to Olive Garden." I said, "It's okay." He goes, "I know." It's like a therapy session. He goes, "I don't go all the time. Sometimes I just meet my friends for lunch there." I said, "It's okay, Grandpa." I said, "I like the chicken scampi." He goes, "You do?" I said, "Yes." We're like two people admitting. It's like a confessional. It's like we're at confession. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." "What have you done, my son?" "I went to Olive Garden." But it was the food experience. It was that 90s experience of going there too on those Friday nights, Saturday nights. It was always a cool place. always playing Frank Sinatra, always Tony Bennett. Come fly with me, right? Whoa. Olive Garden was trying to be, and as a chain restaurant, it is pretending to be the thing you experience if you go into a Little Italy, which I'm very familiar with. But I knew what they were doing, but it was still fun. And we could, at that time, Olive Garden was even pricey then. It was like, whoa, got to save your money for that. Because that's that check when that comes, you might regret it, but the experience was worth it. Now, waiting tables at Olive Garden is a whole different story. Waiting tables in general, I've waited so many tables. I've done catering. You won't believe the shit I've done. But Olive Garden, that is for the strong. First, you have to understand the amount of breadsticks and endless, soup and breadsticks. You as a waiter have to go get all those things. You don't really have a food runner bringing those things. A lot of these restaurants, and I always envy people work at the really expensive restaurants where you have the server and then you just have the food runners that do all the work. You're just taking the order, you're pushing a button, sending it back to the kitchen, and the food runners, and you're just taking orders. I would have thrived in that situation, but back in the early 2000s when I'm waiting tables, you didn't have any of that shit. You had paper. You're writing the shit down, right? So there's no tablet that sends it automated to the kitchen onto a screen. You're writing it down on a notepad, and you're trying to keep up, right? Someone goes really quick. Yeah, I'll have the tour of Italy. I'll have this. I'll have this. I'll have breadsticks. I'll have blah, blah, blah. You're like, okay, so what did you say? What? It's hard to keep up. So you're writing it all down. Then you got to go to the computer. Then you had to input it manually into the computer. As you're doing this, you get sat with a table of 12. It's the most stressful thing in the entire world. You're bringing breadsticks every 2 seconds. Everyone's complaining. Where's my soup? I'm sorry. I was a disaster at Olive Garden. Disaster. Let me tell you another thing here that's a little bit, because I'm real, and I always admit this. It brings the worst out of you, I think, or let me rephrase that. It brings the worst out of me because when you're working for a tip and you're not working at an hourly wage that's sufficient, because that's how they get you. All these restaurants are saving all this money because they would pay waiters $2 an hour, waitresses $2 an hour. Yeah, well, but the tips cover it. So, like, wait a second, you're putting the cost of my labor on your customers and they're buying the food? Never understood that. I get it as a cost saving mechanism for the restaurant owners. That's a tough industry. I'm not messing around. I understand that. What I'm saying is, you're telling me $2 an hour, and then so you're working for the tips. But listen, people who are coming in, they're trying to save money. So they're not always looking to tip. And you find yourself, I, it's funny, my therapist always says, don't say you, say I, take ownership. Here, I found myself sussing out and making guesses of who would tip and who wouldn't tip. Just by the way they would look at me, just by their demeanor. And I remember being like, man, oh, that's not going to tip. So I started playing games with like people I would ignore. One, because I was just a terrible waiter to begin with. My point is, you're overwhelmed and you're trying to survive at Olive Garden. You're singing happy birthday. You're singing all the songs. Hey, I'm really Italian American, but I got to do the whole pretend Italian American thing, right? And we're family. We're all family. No, okay, whatever. I'm trying to make money. I'm going table to table. And I'm starting to try to figure out instead of just going across the board. And what I found out time after time after time is the people I thought would tip wouldn't tip. The people I wouldn't think would tip ended up tipping well. Or the people that may have would have tipped didn't tip because I didn't do a good enough job for them to tip. It was a mess. So even though Olive Garden was a magical place in the 90s, it was a magical place to eat. I had so many good times with my friends going to Olive Garden. Working there was a complete and utter disaster. One place I didn't work, but that I spent time in was Denny's. I got some Denny's stories here right around the corner, but let's do some station identification here, as they say in radio, and also go back and read some comments. There's been a lot coming in. Oh man, where are we here? Okay, Corey was talking about tumbleweed. Alan was talking about working at Olive Garden, and it lasted a week. Alan, I lasted a month only because I did make some cash and I liked the feeling of having cash, but I only lasted a month. So, Ellen, not too bad for the week there. Who else? Oh yeah, Corey's already talking to people. Yes, both. Why have we not had Corey on the live? Listen, interesting enough, Dwayne. What's funny is we've experimented with a couple of different live shows. So before I started doing night stories, Corey and myself were doing another live, but it was kind of more of a radio format, less of this kind of independent sort of late night kind of stuff. And it was called Live and Unscripted. So similar format, but her and I as co-hosts, and also we would add folks as well. We're gonna be doing something, and we haven't decided. It might be where we do this once a month in a video form. We might I might just have her join me on night stories, and she might just have to suck it up. Corey, I have to tell you, I know you like. She's getting up early in the morning with kids, and I'm working till 2 a.m. Dwayne, but I got to tell you, she's been a huge part of not only my career, but she is one of the best hosts that you have not heard from as a host, and I'm making it my mission to do a show with her. So this is a great idea. We got to get her on one of these night stories live. Um, Try to write like a stenographer. Oh yeah, this is Chad, trying to have your own code to make it go by quicker, and then realizing, hold on, I'm missing realizing you can't read your own handwriting. That's unbelievable, Chad, the stenographer. Yeah. And it's funny though, right? I have a lot of friends who work in the court reporting industry, and the technology has shifted a lot. But man, to try to do that, that is really, really, really difficult. Man, dude, Kyle, great to see you. Unlimited pasta makes Olive Garden and amazing. It is. That's the thing, man. What you're looking at there, Kyle, the proposition of an Olive Garden, they're saying, listen, we're going to give you some food. It's going to be edible. It's going to taste good, and you're going to hit some home runs with it. But it's the unlimited pasta, the unlimited breadsticks, the unlimited soup. You can't go wrong. And I understand why a lot of people went there for lunch too. And now it's different. We go to Olive Garden. It's a little different now. It's more casual. That's what I'm saying. It's like in the '90s, it was, I don't know, it felt like everyone was at a business meeting. You know what I'm saying? It felt like everyone was cutting deals at the garden. Going to the garden? Or Madison Square Garden? No, the Olive Garden. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's brokering deals, making so everyone had slick back hair. Everybody went to these '90s chain restaurants, and they presented in a way, they acted as if. It's like an acting term. Act as if. Mm. The people who have worked in the service industry, yes, at some time in their life, generally tip more. That's right. I tip, and admittedly so, I tip ridiculously high. I'm talking minimum 20%. I'm usually pushing 25, 30 because of what you just said, Kyle. Because of what you just said. And I couldn't agree more. Corey, people are recruiting you. They're dying for you to come on to Night Stories. And we're gonna figure something out here, whether it's the once a month show that we do, maybe it's video, I don't know, but Corey's gonna be a part of it. The Grand Slam. Now, are you talking about Denny's, Chad? Are you talking about Denny's Grand Slam? Because I'm about to get to that in a second. Real quick station identification. You're listening to Night Stories. I'm Aaron Calafato. I'll be your guide, your voice. What are you doing this evening? Getting ready for bed. Are you on the West Coast? Are you just getting in the evening? Are you in the East Coast like me at 12:29 a.m. on August 29th, 2025? You trying to just relax, trying to unwind? Are you like me and just kind of like, man, what a week? This week, man. Kids went back to school. Things at work wild on the podcast side. We're in the process of pitching a lot of different ideas and trying to get some things closed on the consulting side. And I've been ramping up a lot of the stories for 7 minute stories on the storytelling side. So it's just been a week, man. It's always like that. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're finding some value in this. I just announced earlier we're going to have Thomas Nicholas from Rookie of the Year fame and now touring musician. He's had tons of albums out and he's got a lot of things in the work and his new podcast. He's going to be coming on once a month as a reoccurring drop in guest on Night Stories. They're going to be calling in just on the phone, old school radio. You know what I'm saying? A lot of drop in guests are going to come in just for a 20-minute segment, just say, hey, what's up? To kind of break up the formula a little bit. And we're not moving away from what I'm doing right now. So don't worry. It's not turning, but it's going to be a nice little drop. And it's not going to be every Thursday, but that's going to be a fun thing. I'm laughing. I'm looking. Everyone's looking like Gordon Bombay from Mighty Ducks. That's you, Chad. That's what I'm saying. You got to write a book of short stories, man. If people don't know, I've said this. Chad, one of our favorite people in the 7 minute stories, I guess, family, if you will. That is perfect. Gordon Bombay pre getting cut or pre getting fired from the law firm when he was at his worst. Gordon Bombay, like right on the cusp of having a drinking problem, but still making deals. That's who's at Olive Garden in the 90s, working business deals at lunch. And dude, Bennigan's, Kyle, are you serious? I know, dude. Bennigan. Okay. All right. So we're talking Bennigan's. That's a great throwback. We're talking tumbleweed. Corey was talking about tumbleweed earlier. We had so who I think it was Ellen or Angel was talking about Fuddruckers last week. Fuddruckers, that's another name. We talked about Olive Garden. I told you a story about Chi-Chi's. I was telling you I led the stream off talking about Damon's. You want a full slab or half slab? Come on. There's no vegetarians here. We're rocking ribs and fries and apps, spinach dips, French onion soup, potato teasers, baked potatoes, potato skins. Is there anything better than a potato skin, by the way? I'll tell you what, if you're in a pinch, go for a potato skin. It's just a skin, it's a potato. You put it in the oven, it's going to heat it up. It's going to, you can't go wrong. Some cheese and some bacon, get out of there. Damon's always had amazing potato skins, that's what I remembered. But we've been talking about what makes the 90s chains special. Some of it's the marketing campaigns, I think. They were brilliant. Dwayne's tapping in here. Sizzler, Sizzler. Oh my gosh, if you get a chance, you know what? I think I can do this. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to actually try to find a Sizzler uh, commercial 1987. I'm doing some multitasking here, so forgive me. Okay, clicking share. All right. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the chat. And I like I said, my other all the other places they're not coming through if you're listening on Facebook, if you're listening and a couple other places, but I am able to access the YouTube chat. So I'm dropping this in here. When you get a chance, take a look at this. There's this Sizzler commercial with Jodie Sweetin. So back in the day, it was the Sizzler steak and shrimp. So from Full House, she was in this, and then she did a callback for Sizzler. By the way, that's still around. I didn't know Sizzler was still around. There's one more I'm going to put in here for Sizzler. Dwayne, great reference, by the way. This is amazing. Oh my gosh. There is a promotional commercial, 1991 Sizzler. I'm going to drop this. So when you get a chance, please watch this. It is one of the greatest things I have ever seen. So I'm dropping both of these in. So there's a Jody Sweden one. And here's the thing. I used to play these on the live streams and I can do it, but then it gets weird with copyright and then YouTube tries to do stuff. I don't want to mess around with it and screw up the stream or anything. So when you can listen to it now, whenever you want. I dropped it. There's the Jody Sweeten one and then the one I just posted here. Kyle, we're going to Scissor. We going to Scissor. That's right. Underneath that, there is a campaign from 1991 that Sizzler ran. It is one of the this is if 1991 had an identity, this Sizzler promotional video would be it. What I just dropped. Hell, I'm feeling so dangerous. I'm pinning it. I'm pinning it in the YouTube comments. Sorry for anyone else who's streaming elsewhere. Like I said, we're still working the kinks out. But either way, check that out for you listening and on YouTube. I pinned this comment. This campaign had 80s 90s style song. It was propaganda that rivaled that of Uncle Sam or like the World War II propaganda machine. And I'm watching this and I remember seeing it, and for the first 4 minutes of this video, I'm like, is this a political campaign? Is this an old Dan Quayle advertisement? Is this Ronald Reagan? Like, I'm I'm watching this thing, and then what's amazing, halfway through, maybe 75% in, you realize it's a damn Sizzler commercial. For a generation, Americans want something different. Bold, ahead of the curve, decisive, but fair, value, right? And I'm like, oh, this is you watch this thing, and there's arbitrary footage of people throwing frisbees to dogs. There's a captain. There is a captain on a ship next to some little girl. What the hell's that about? What when they're making this creative decision? Yeah, let's get a captain of an old sea captain guy looks like the Gorton's fisherman next to some little like it was just the most random stuff. People running in 80s style sweatsuits, they're sweating. But you know where they're all converging? They're all converging at Sizzler. And then you realize this thing's just a damn buffet. The 90s restaurant chains also, we have to talk about, besides the Chi-Chi's, besides the Chili's, besides the Olive Garden, we got to give love to the Sizzlers. We have to give love to the Ponderosas, some would call it Ponderosa, Ponderosas. Golden Corral in its heyday. The, the buffet thrived in the 90s. I'm going to go back to some of these comments here. Oh man, Big Boy, Bob's Big Boy, still around. There's some still in Ohio, but they're kind of disappearing. I know there's some in Kentucky, Southern Ohio. Bob's Big Boy is great. Bob's Big Boy had you had your breakfast. Some of them had a buffet, but they had it's like the Big Mac, right? It was the Big Boy burger. Oh, that's solid, man. That's solid. Looks like Dwayne, you still got a Big Boy out there, or is it a Sizzler? Let me know. Let's see who else. That's right. It's the start of every nine. It's an '80s movie montage for everything. What's crazy is in that video I pinned, Chad. It's I just watched, and my daughter and I we watch this and laugh. We think it's the best piece of restaurant propaganda. Unfortunately, Sizzler, they've reduced the amount of stores, but they're still around. They're still around. Damn it. Your country diner. You support your country. Oh wait, Kyle, support your country. Eat dinner at Sizzler immediately. That's the slogan, man. So you had that. You had your breakfast places. You had your Sizzlers. Okay, good to see Sizzler for Dwayne. That's the one. That's great. You got Dwayne. Do me a favor. Just Next live we do, just come on here. Just tell me what it's like. I miss it. I remember going there. It was one of those weekend destinations too, where everyone just sort of met up, and you felt like anything was possible at Sizzler. Maybe it was just the youth of it for me. There was always this sense of, well, I always felt lucky, like, hey, we get to go out to eat, but like the abundance is a very American thing. And I think if you're not aware of it, that can be difficult. But just stepping into a space where it's like there's food everywhere. A buffet is a very American thing. Just this plethora of food. When I think about buffets, I always think about the Christmas Carol, the Ghost of Christmas Present, where he says, "Come in and know me better, man." And the Scrooge goes in, and there's just it's the Ghost of Christmas Present, sort of the Saint Nicholas character, the Santa Claus character, whatever, on all of the food, just piles and piles of the harvest. You know what I'm saying? But I remember being in a buffet in the 90s and being like, this is wild. The ice cream machines at these buffets, that soft serve vanilla, get out of my face. It was incredible. Bob Evans has been around for a long time. You get Bob Evans, not a buffet, but Bob Evans from Rio Grande, Ohio, was I think where it originated from. By the way, Wendy's as a chain originated in Columbus, Ohio. I went to my first fast food chain restaurant was Wendy's. I don't remember it clearly because I was like 3, but my parents took me to the original Wendy's in Columbus, Ohio. But Bob Evans originated from Ohio as well. And that was the place. Bob Evans was the place. Not only did I work there, and I got a story about that, and I went there. Bob Evans was a place where it was a chain, but the great thing about chains that no one talks about is the consistency. Like everyone knocks it because like, oh, it's just a chain, right? Yeah, but you know what? There's something beautiful about the corporatization of it. There is. I'm going to say this. There's something beautiful about the fact that you can depend on it. It's not a wild card. You're not rolling the dice when you're going into Bob Evans. It's not like you're going to like that new Greek restaurant that like has only one car parked in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm Italian American. I'm Sicilian American. I got Greek in my blood. I'm just saying, pick any restaurant, pick any new thing or that hole in the wall. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to adventure a little bit, but I'm kind of like Ben Stiller in Along Came Polly when it comes to like really branching out into the weird stuff. Because if I have money to spend, I don't want to be injured after I eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I actually want to enjoy the food. And if I'm not feeling dangerous, if I'm not feeling risky, there's always that dependability of the McDonaldization of and or the franchising of a chain restaurant because you kind of know what you're going to get. It's something dependable in a world and in a life for many people that is not dependable. In a world and a life that has variables all over the place. There's no blueprint for this thing. We all know that. We're walking around every single day, new things happening, good, bad, otherwise. I mean, terrible things happening, wonderful thing, right? Life is just this painting, this roller coaster kind of ride, right? To trope it, but it really is. And what the 90s restaurant or the 90s chain, especially then and to this day, do, I think it serves a psychological need of comfort and dependability. It's the same reason why I love professional wrestling. It doesn't have a season. It goes on and on and on. And they always are working and they're always telling stories and they're always there. If something happens, your parents, they split up, wrestling was there. It was a presence. 90s restaurants is the same thing. It's a place you could show up, Bob Evans, you know you can go to good breakfast there. Thomas says Bob Evans' favorite breakfast place of all time. Hey, I get it. I know there's a lot of people. I know it's a chain. I know in the last few years I've heard some things. Bob Evans is the quality. A lot of these chain restaurants aren't the same quality as they were when we were growing up. And I don't mean to again do that old guy in McDonald's thing where it's like we're not back in my day, but they weren't. Globalization, the cost of food, inflation, all these kind of things. I'm not an economist. I'm just saying, when you walked into an Olive Garden in the '90s, when you walked into Bob Evans, that bacon was thick. You know what I'm saying? Like the quality was better. There's still a company. They're still making money, but you could taste it. Or was it just that we were young? I don't know. My point is, the dependability of the chain restaurant was beautiful. My dad would take me to Bob Evans almost every morning. I could tell you his order. It was two over hard eggs, rye toast, hash browns, coffee. And he would take the over hard egg, he would put it on the buttered rye toast and eat it only on the bread. And I did that for a long time. I think Chad earlier was talking about Hardee's, biscuits and gravy. I'm a breakfast guy, man. I don't care when you eat breakfast. I'm a breakfast guy, morning, noon, and night. I love breakfast food. And Bob Evans, you could just depend on it. You go in there, you meet up with people. It's a great place to meet up. People are always socializing at Bob Evans. You take your grandmother to Bob Evans. You go to lunch at Bob Evans. You have a talk at Bob Evans because you could have breakfast. You could just do a coffee. They got the counter. Maybe you have something light. It was a place where sitting was acceptable. And in the '90s, it was smoking and non smoking, and they basically just had two rooms that were connected with just a single, like, not even a wall, just a slightly raised, elevated table. And then, so if you didn't smoke, you're always smoking. That's what it was until they eliminated that. But my point is, a Bob Evans experience was a relaxing experience. Sometimes you'd share news. This happened a lot. You would always hear good news or bad news at Bob Evans. Sometimes you found out stuff at Bob Evans. We got to talk. Anytime, there's a theory I have in my family. Anytime something went wrong, people said, we need to have a talk. Someone's getting divorced. You find out you have a sibling you don't know. Is that just me? I'm just my point is, stuff happens, and like a talk. Let's meet at Bob Evans. That's what. And you, oh boy, and it's either good or bad. My wife and I, our first date was at Bob Evans. I crushed my breakfast. She only ate half of hers. I asked for her half. I ate it. Could have chilled out there on the first date, but she was like, I knew I loved you. I remember her getting out of the car in the parking lot and meeting me. And at the time, we were just friends. And and this was the moment when she came out of the car and she kind of skipped in the parking lot to meet me. I think that's when I knew I was going to marry her. Then we go to Bob Evans and have breakfast. What could be better? And then later that week, we went on an adventure to try to find TCBY ice cream or soft serve. That was all. That plan was hatched at a Bob Evans over breakfast. My dad and I got in an argument at Bob Evans. I'd asked him for something. We had a disagreement. And being, Italian American, we're talking, not fighting, just elevating a little bit. And days later, I found out that someone called the police on us. Someone at Bob Evans called the police on us because they thought we were verbally assaulting each other. I can imagine the call. There are two just slightly insane Italian American men here at Bob Evans, and they seemed to be yelling and very angry. Someone called in a police report because we were talking with our hands. I don't agree with you. Blah, 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 blah. Like there's a lot of hand gestures, and they thought it was a scary thing. Yeah, now I think about it, Bob Evans was home to a lot of my memories just because it was right on the highway. They always position them on the highway too. If you're ever traveling through Ohio or any state with Bob Evans, they're always right off the highway. So when you want a cup of coffee, you want that standard food, you want that decent experience, you want that dependable biscuit, you want that satisfactory pancake, you want something for lunch, they got it, dinner, they got it, breakfast, they got it. That dependability. All right, I got a couple more stories here, but before I get to them, let's go through some of these comments that we've been getting. Oh, let's see. Michael's back in talking about Bob Evans has gone downhill. Michael, I'm not here to, I'm not to besmudge Bob Evans, but I will have a, I think it's ingredients, Michael, is what I'm saying. I think it's ingredients. I think I've noticed that's like where you're sourcing them from and probably a cost saving mechanism, but I agree. Maybe they can have a comeback. People are talking about Sizzler. What else we got? Kyle, Golden Corral is the most American restaurant ever. When I was a kid, the price for kids was whatever your kid weighed. That is a joke, right? Are you serious? That is crazy. Oh man. Dwayne, salad bar is okay. Also have fixin' for tacos and wings. Yeah. Look, and listen, this was like the pre-COVID era too, right? I know buffets took a damn hit, especially just with like the health consciousness. And I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac myself, so I'm always weary of buffets because there's always that person that's like looking underneath the glass. What are we doing here? But the stuff you could, if it's a well maintained buffet, a couple of features for a buffet that where you need to be well, but one, the items need to be cold, very cold. If you're at a buffet and there's a salad bar area and those that salad, those cucumbers, whatever it is, it's not cold. You can't feel the ice, the Arctic air coming from that. You step away from that immediately. Get out of there. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. Let's see. Warsaw Tavern in Cleveland. If you know, you know. Matt, Chad, here's my question. Have you, seems like, have you been to Cleveland before? I know that you, at some point, we'll talk offline about this. Give me a text if you ever travel and you find yourself in and around Cleveland. There was a place in, oh my gosh, there was a place in Cleveland called Sokolowski's, and it's no longer here. And it was, really almost like Polish American food. It was featured on all the food channels. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was a buffet, and you could order off menu too, but all Polish, Eastern European stuff. But man, pierogies, potatoes, casserole. I mean, it's wild. I remember taking a picture of one of these, showing it to my buddy from New York. He came to visit me. He ate there, and after one plate of all that starch, I took a picture of him. It looked like he was just in a boxing match. He was like, Sokolowski's. That's right, Corey. You are a lucky woman, but I am equally and more absolutely a lucky man. That's for sure. 77 cents for the weight. So Kyle's confirming that they charged you the weight. You know what's wild? Man, I should have been eating at that one all the time because even through eighth grade, I weighed 77 pounds. In eighth grade. You imagine trying to ask a girl out as a, and I'm a freshman, I'm 80 pounds, 82 pounds. Imagine trying to ask a girl out to homecoming. I'm 80. I'm like, hey, how are you? You want to go to homecoming with me? I'd like to. You're 82 pounds. You are a, you were a child. So damn, I could have saved some money. You're listening to Night Stories. I'm Aaron Calafato. I'm your guide, and we're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Facebook. We're streaming on Riverside, and we're streaming at 7minutestoriespod.com/nice stories. And we're also streaming in about 326 other places. If any of you are trying to message in from those places for some reason on Riverside, my Omni stream isn't working. Damn it. But at least, hey, at least the live stream didn't drop like it did last week. We're an hour and 30 in. We're golden. And we still got a little bit more time here to go. Thanks for joining me here. And we've been talking tonight about kind of your 90s chain restaurant memories. I've been trying to prove a theory that I have that there is something more magical about 90s chains, or at least chains as they were in the decade of the 90s. Whether I'm proving that or not, I don't know. What I can tell you is it was different. It seemed like the food quality was different, the marketing was different, the experience was different. It feels like now chains are kind of just like the new fast food. Like Olive Garden's a new fast food, whereas before it wasn't fast food. It was Olive Garden, right? It was Longhorn. It was Chi Chi's. When you go to some of those sit down, it's like, oh, there's a sit down restaurant. Even Applebee's, there's still the neighborhood grill or whatever, your neighborhood Applebee's. What's funny again, the corporatization of this is it's a trope, it's a stereotype of one of those actual places because there's neighborhood pubs and bars and all kinds of stuff that I love. But just getting into this, I love it's like the recreation of the thing that's real, except it's not real. It's just a reflection of what's real. But the prevalence of those and the dependability of those chains, and hell, sometimes they come up with great specials and they have some great appetizers. Those places are always known for, I think appetizers, were appetizers always a thing? Like I know, I've done 5 star where they bring you courses and stuff like that. And, in the Italian American, at least the food we do, you have your antipasta, you have all the layers, right? The dessert, the coffee afterwards. It's an ordeal. It's an odyssey. But were appetizers a thing when people would go out to eat at regular places, or am I correct in my thinking that the 80s and 90s, they're the app like I get Corey always says you're going crazy on the appetizers. I show up to a restaurant. I go to TGI Fridays, whatever. I'm ordering 4 apps. You want some apps? I ask the table. Anybody want apps? Everyone's like, slow down, Aaron. I'm 4 minutes in at a, at a Longhorn or, or a Chili's. I've ordered $40 worth of appetizers. I'm starving at that point. I'm ordering apps. And I'm telling you, there was this explosion of the romanticism. It was the romance of appetizers. They have a whole page dedicated to appetizers. Go to some of these places. Go to Cheesecake Factory. It's like 4 pages of appetizers. They know what they're doing. They know you're starving. They know you've been waiting in line. They know it's 1996. Here, take a trip back with me. Get into the DeLorean. They know you've been standing outside with the little buzzer. You've been waiting for an hour and a half. You see people going in, and you're wondering, people are squatting in that restaurant. You're thinking, there's got to be a table of 4 that comes out at some point. But you're sitting there, you're waiting, the thing's not buzzing. Do they forget about this? Maybe just stop, talk to the hostess a couple times. Get real quick, ma'am. Where am I on the list there? How far down? I'm looking here. Yeah, you're about 5. There's about 5 parties in front of you. They know what they're doing. By the time you reach the table, waiter or waitress comes over. Hey, welcome to Olive Garden. Hey, how you doing? We're starving. Yeah, I'm gonna bring you some breadsticks in a moment. Can I get you something to drink? Yeah. Can I just have some water? Maybe Pepsi. Cool. 10 minutes goes by because they got 6 trays and 47 soft drinks they're carrying and some wine. You get the drinks. At this point, you're emaciated. You're so hungry. Your organs are eating themselves. And then they open that menu up and they show you the specials and you start looking at the apps and you realize I am going to do something tonight I'm going to regret. I'm going to binge on appetizers. How before I do a tour of Italy, I'm doing a full tour of Sicily. And then we're going to do a tour of Italy. And then we're doing the breadsticks. And then we're doing the salad. Relax, Aaron. It's a nighttime show. People are trying to relax. Oh, it looks like, well, I'm looking at the comments here. KFC. Yeah, no comments yet about KFC, and I haven't talked about KFC. KFC is, at least for me, there I would go, let me say this. I'd have years where I would go to KFC all the time, and then there'd be years where I wouldn't go to KFC. This is one thing about KFC as a chain. I have to say though, even though the mashed potatoes are like the fake mashed potatoes, I love KFC's mashed potatoes and brown gravy. And a bucket of chicken is great. But KFC is another one of those chains. And they're always an interesting one. And they always, you know, I have noticed they've shifted in the 90s, early 2000s. I don't know what it is like where you all are at, but for me, they used to have restaurants, like bigger locations where you'd walk in and you do the order and you'd sit in the restaurant just like any of the sit down restaurants. Now it seems like, it's more of a drive through experience. There's like a smaller eating area. I don't know if that's something that you all notice, but KFC, man. See, now you got me thinking about fried chicken. Man, I wish I had a bucket of fried chicken. 1 a.m. Eastern time here on Night Stories. Call this Night Munchies. Yes, Chad's chiming in. Yes, Dwayne, KFC with the honey on the biscuit and the ice cold Pepsi. Come on. Get that honey packet. Get that honey packet on the biscuit. It's the biscuit. Oh my gosh. Do you do cold fried chicken, anybody? That's my thing. I've tried to like cold fried chicken. I can't do the cold, but there's nothing better than hot fried chicken. There's a place here where I live, and it's not here anymore. It was called Sister's Chicken. It's a fried chicken spot. It had these like animations of these three different sisters. I remember their faces when I would drive by. You go in there, get a bucket of chicken. The man, now you okay, so I'm gonna try to sift through some of these. We did the honey. Oh, yes, the chili, Kyle. I go to I'll be like, give me a medium chili, cheese and onions. The chili at Wendy's, it still is fantastic. And then they would have back in the day they would have a taco salad bar at Wendy's. That was fantastic. Incredible reference there. Dwayne, I had the exact opposite experience where I always had the original. And just a few years ago, I'm like, yeah, let me get an extra crispy. Extra crispy is incredible too. Whew. Janice, nice to see you here. I know it seems like I haven't heard from you before. Yes, KFC, a lot smaller. Two restaurants in my town down to one, drive through only, or two tables. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Janice, thanks for tuning in to Night Stories. I think it's like there's got to be a consolidation there, right? Let's see who else. Chad's chiming back in. Oh yeah, leftover fried chicken, 2 a.m. Grab that bottle of water out of the fridge. Wait, what's this? A cold. I, I'm telling you, Chad, you've got to write your short stories, man. This is so funny. This is like an inner monologue. I'm going to read it again. Leftover fried chicken. It's 2 a.m. I'm going to go to the fridge. I better get a bottle of water out of there. Wait, what's this? A cold chicken leg? Yes, please. You know, I have done the cold chicken leg, and it's funny. When I do it, I'm like, oh, I like it. I think for me, it's got to be the leg though, because when it's cold and I'm trying to do through a thigh or a chicken breast, like I want that chicken skin to be crispy, and if it's not, but the leg is good because it's a thin layer. You know what I'm saying? Of skin, it's a thin layer. Oh man, wait till we do a couple of these episodes around holiday food. I got some night story episodes planned out here for holiday food. This could be dangerous for everybody here listening to night stories. I guarantee you, some people are going to be pissed. They're like, Aaron, I've been on a diet. Everything was going good until I started listening to night stories with Aaron Calafato. Dude just talks about fried chicken in restaurants. All right, let's do another station identification here before we wind up here for the next 10 or 15 minutes. We've been going long tonight, but that's good. You're listening to Night Stories. I'm Aaron Calafato. Been guiding you with storytelling and talking to you throughout the evening, streaming pretty much everywhere, but primarily on YouTube, on Riverside. Uh, we are streaming on Facebook and streaming at 7minutestories.com/night stories. If you like what you're listening to, and if you're one of those folks streaming where I didn't get the comments in the Omni chat, I apologize, but I know you're there. Thank you for tuning in. For those comments that did sneak in, um, I appreciate you as well. So wherever you're tuning in from, make sure you're following. I would recommend, look, the Facebook link is fine. Ultimately, what I really like to do with this is get everybody that's listening on all these other platforms and really consolidate them to YouTube. YouTube is the place where we're really trying to grow this, and it's just great as a sort of a contained universe. And it always seems to be the place where if something goes down, I can always rely on YouTube's chat. So if you wouldn't mind, find Aaron Calafato on YouTube. That's me. You'll see my face pop up smiling at you. It's about 35, 36,000 subscribers. You'll see all the other content there that you can dive into. And then on Thursdays, besides special lives that I do, and I told you that Thomas Nicholas from Rookie of the Year, a musician, producer, actor, sort of jack of all trades, amazing guy. He's going to be coming on actually, I believe it's going to be Monday, September 15th. So with his schedule, we might be doing a stream Monday, September 15th of Night Stories. I would put that in your calendar if you can. Calendar. What are you doing at 11:30 at night? Who knows? If you're on the West Coast, maybe it's a little earlier. But my point is, if you're in Central, if you're in Eastern or whatever, set your set your calendars for September 15th. At least that's what we had agreed on for him to come on there. And he's going to jump on for about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. We're going to talk. We're still going to be doing the Night Stories theme. Going to be still be telling the stories, talking to you, taking your comments. But what would be cool is if those of you who are tuning in, wherever you're tuning in, bring in your questions for Thomas, chat with him, and we can have a conversation with him and kind of have a nice banter like this. So that's on September 15th. But besides that, we are always, besides the exception, always going to be streaming Thursday nights at 11:30 p.m. Eastern, starting going till about right now, about 1 o'clock a.m. Sometimes I push it to 1:15. And right now I've got some energy here, so I'm going to keep going for a few more minutes. If you like what we're doing here, which is really a pilot we've been building for a month, make sure you're following on YouTube, especially that you're liking the stream because the algorithmic game is when you like it and you start something new, they want to see it month over month. And it shares it in the algorithm. And also text someone that you know that might be up to hanging around, getting ready for bed, just thinking, unwinding, whatever. They want maybe just some noise in the background that doesn't do harm and maybe does a little bit of good. Text someone this very link and say, hey, this weird guy from Ohio is telling stories and it seems to be a thing and it's something that you might want to listen to. It's like radio for the YouTube age. Tell folks about it, and I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to go and talk a little bit here about my time waiting tables at Bob Evans. We're getting in the Bob Evans sort of vortex, and maybe close out with another story about Happy Meals at McDonald's. No, and listen, because I think McDonald's is the chain. It's almost so omnipresent, omnipotent as a chain that we don't even mention anymore. That's how much of a chain it is. And I can't stand McDonald's. Like everyone knows, like I hate it, but I love a hot fry right in the bag. And listen, last 5 or 6 years, I'm walking 3 miles a night. I've always been pretty good about staying in shape and eating, but I'm a human being. I live in America. Might as well enjoy some of the stuff here. I love a hot fry in a McDonald's bag. That's another thing, but you can't deny that they're a chain. And in the 90s, they were not only the chain, they were the vanguard, man. I'll tell you this, if you ever want to know where property values are going to start building up, where they're going to start developing construction, and where the curve of population is going, find a new McDonald's. New McDonald's always know. I don't know what they're doing with the research. They know when a part of town is going to build up and where populations are going. We have McDonald's probably 3, 4 miles down the road here as you start going south of our town. And right before you get to some of the rural area, they were the first and only fast food place there. They anchored there, and now the place is bustling. There's development, there's restaurants, there's all kinds of stuff, there's stores, but they were there. They know. It's funny. I'm looking here. Dwayne, you're talking about YouTube is great, but the commercials suck. So there's a couple things. Maybe we could just chat about this since we're getting kind of in the late here in the show, and then I'll end with those two stories. You all can let me know. One, you can go to a couple places. YouTube's not great for like communication. I think they have now like a community feature on when you can go and post things. But you all should reach out to me if you have any comments or ideas about about ways we can make the show even more accessible. You go to 7minutestoriespod.com and there's a contact form. You can go to it's more for my consulting work, but you can go to aaroncalafato.com and you can kind of see what I do outside of the actual storytelling when I help companies tell stories. Either way, reach out to me. I, we've been thinking about that too. Dwayne brings up a great point. The premium YouTube subscription is pretty expensive. I have it for my work. I think it's like $200, $300, something crazy for the year. So I don't have any commercials on YouTube. So I'm a little bit, what is that? A little bit Stockholm syndrome, where like I'm kind of in the vortex of realizing, oh yeah, other people have commercials. What we might do if we can grow this show, and we have plans to do this particular lives. This has legs here. When we start getting some sponsors and we start getting some deeper distribution and we start getting some celebrity guests, this is going to grow over time. You'll see. Wait me a year. We won't just have hundreds and thousands of streams. We'll have tens of thousands of streams. Because I've done this many times before with other shows. But my point is, those sponsorships could open up an opportunity where we have direct access. So, Dwayne, you've got me thinking actually that there is an option for a private studio, and what I mean by that is a studio just like you would view the live stream on YouTube, except it would be something where we could kind of create a subscription list. It could be the email list. I'll have to have something where like you have an entry point, and then once you get that, you'll have the studio link that you can tune into, and you'll get reminders. So we got to figure out the infrastructure on that, but that's a great idea when you're talking about as far as like commercials being a thing on YouTube. It'll always be here on YouTube and some of these other places, but it might be a good idea as this grows to open up sort of almost like how there's like people like the VIP room, but basically people who've been with this from the start of this. As this grows, we're going to want to, you always want to remember and keep the people who built this from the beginning and who are with you and helped you grow it. We could create an entry point where people come in and listen to it, commercial free, and they could be in the studio. So let me put my mind to that and talk with some folks, and we can hopefully come up with a couple of options there for you. Okay, I was talking about the good memories of Bob Evans. I have to tell you, I waited tables at Bob Evans, and I mentioned the nightmare of waiting tables at Olive Garden. What it did to me kind of turned me into an asshole because I was always trying to suss out who was tipping well, who wasn't. That I'd become a person I didn't really even like. What am I doing? It's like stereotyping people when they come in. Like, what did they? They got money. Like, what? It's turning. It's like what Abe Lincoln said: the better angels of our nature. Like, being a waiter did not open up the better angels of my nature. It turned me into a just. I was desperate, and it was really the pay structure too. Because when you're always fighting for tips, you're starting to get almost it's animalistic, it's predatory, and you're only thinking about the money from this. And so it was just never my thing. But Bob Evans, when I worked there, it was probably the hardest job I ever had as a waiter because Bob Evans, just like many breakfast places, has so many sides and so many like food accessories. the jellies, the jam, the butter, the biscuits, the honey, the chocolate milk in the back of the fridge, the cheese, the side of salsa, the side of butter, the avocado, the cilantro. I mean, everything, right? Because there's a lot of little things in breakfast. Lots of little things. Like being, they got the jelly trays and the butter trays and the honey things and the salt and a lot of spices, a lot of things happening with breakfast. When you're a waiter there, you're just doing your best to try to catch up. Breakfast foods are pretty inexpensive, and so you're not getting tipped really high. Has an older demographic, and they're known to tip. And I can tell you, this is not just they're known not to tip great. They run you ragged. Next thing you know, they're like, "Here, kid, here's a quarter. Buy yourself a newspaper." It just was rough. So the work, I remember just running everywhere, back and forth, sweating my ass off, bringing people pancakes and syrup, and the syrup sticking on my hands. My hands are sticking to the notepad and the paper, and the cooks are yelling at me, and the food's getting burnt, and the bacon's not crispy enough, and the sausage is too greasy. And where am I? I get it. And after all of that, you get $1.25. After all of that, you essentially lost money working the breakfast shift. There was days where I looked at the math of the whole thing. I paid to work. With the gas to get there, they gave you like a 30% discount on food for my break, so I'm paying for that. And then I make like $20 in tips, but I had like 100 tables. People are tipping me quarters and nickels. That waiting tables at Bob Evans was so difficult, and you didn't get any money, and I was pissed all the time. But I had some great experiences there. I was always having philosophical conversations with my coworkers. I was always that guy, just kind of getting too deep. Everyone's like, "I'm here to work as a waiter." I'm like, "What are your thoughts on the meaning of life?" But I remember having religious conversations, spiritual conversations, philosophical conversations, deep dives with some of my coworkers and the different waiters and waitresses. And a lot of these in the food industry, people smoke a lot. So I didn't smoke, but they smoke a lot. You ever go by, and I think it's because it's just a stressful thing. But they're always smoking in the back, smoking around the corner. They go in the back, don't let people see you smoke. So I'd go back where they would take their smoke breaks. I'm just talking to people. There was a guy who ran the back of the kitchen. He was a cook, and he also sort of ran the operations. There was a bunch of different dishwashers, and if you go into the back of the kitchen of a lot of these places, it's a factory. There's so many dishes. They're turning and burning tables, so they got dishes coming in and going out, and they have to have this high pressure, high heat, high sanitization because the variables of people getting sick. There's a lot going on back there, especially in a chain like this, which is always what makes it dependable, right? Because they have a system, they have a corporation kind of involved looking over it. And so there was this guy named Charles, and I remember we would get in these deep conversations. Charles and I are talking. I was talking about life. I was telling him how I wanted to be a rock star at the time. He was telling me about his life growing up in Akron. I was telling him my life growing up in the suburbs, but we were just talking. I was like 18. I think at the time he's maybe in his 50s. Wonderful person, just like a really wonderful human being. It, gentle kindness in his eyes, and we just get talking. You know how that goes. Become fast friends. We're talking. Months go on. Months, and we were talking about what's important to us in life. And I was talking about going to college and my dreams and all this kind of stuff. And what was important to Charles was his church. It was at I think it was a Pentecostal church in inner city Akron, Ohio. And he invited me to his church service. Just as like, not to recruit me or not to evangelize. Really, it was just like, hey, I think you just check it out. Like, you come and see what's important to me. He played the organ and he played some of the other instruments. And so for me, like a white kid in the suburbs going to this church, it was different because I'd never been to inside of a church. I've seen it in the movies. I'd never been to a Pentecostal church. And I walk in there and it's packed. And just like those 90s chains, man, those restaurants, those days of old, people were dressed to the nines. There's a thick heat in the air, fans going, music started, the preaching started, the call and response started. And I remember just kind of sitting there being like, feeling a little bit out of place and just trying to take in the experience. And that was the first time I learned about the difference in the amount of time people spend at church. And Charles spent, he told me, he's like, it's a little bit of a long service. We started like 10 a.m. They went to 1 p.m., but it felt like 2 minutes. I mean, it was it was something I'll never forget. And I knew, growing up, you know, Catholic, and I had my own thing that I did. But after the service, I remember Charles thanked me for coming and seeing him playing music and stuff like that. And I think he knew in that moment we probably weren't going to see each other again, or at least our paths would diverge. And afterwards, there was still like 20 or 30 people left in the pews. And Charles asked everybody to gather around in a circle and pray for me, to do a prayer circle. And I'm like, I kind of almost felt embarrassed. I was like, no, it's okay. So he's like, oh, come on in. They all put their arms around me, and he gives this prayer about his friend Aaron and how he has big dreams and he hopes he accomplishes his goals. And he knows whatever he sets his mind to creatively, he'll achieve it. And it was awesome. And I remember shaking his hand, giving him a hug. I had a few more shifts at Bob Evans where I talked to him and said hi. Then college came and time came and went. And even when I went back to that Bob Evans during fall break or as I went through college, I kind of peeked in the back and I noticed he was gone. And but I always remember that prayer and that welcoming he had for me and his church, and that kindness that he showed me. And the crazy thing is, all of that started working at Bob Evans in the 90s. And I didn't work at a Bob Evans at the 90s because I wanted to. I worked at a Bob's Bob Evans in the 90s because I loved going there for breakfast with my dad. I loved their eggs and I loved the conversations we had there, the good news and the bad news and all the stuff. All those weekends, all those Friday nights with both my parents when they had a little extra money, whether I was going with my mom to Damon's and playing trivia and eating ribs, or celebrating a birthday at Chi Chi's with some amazing ground beef tacos. We're going to Denny's. Didn't even get to Denny's tonight. There's so many, right? The late night Denny's with my friends, rubbing two nickels together or a couple of dollars just to get the Grand Slam breakfast or the cheese fries. And just that corner that you and your friends have at that place. Ours was the Denny's in the suburbs. Maybe the Taco Bell sometimes, but I talk too much about Taco Bell. All of it stems from those times. It stems from the sort of a commercial era. We know it was a commercial era. It was an era of expansion and hypercapitalism and commercialism and all that stuff. And there's bad stuff with that, but there's good stuff with that too. I mean, the good and the bad are just what you glean from it. Everything else is just dressing. It's just infrastructure. You can find something beautiful at an Olive Garden if you look hard enough, or in the kitchen or the dish room at a Bob Evans. Just like I loved getting Happy Meals when I was a kid at McDonald's. I can't lie. I got sucked in with those toys. What's the toy for the Happy Meal? And the toys in the 90s were incredible. They didn't mess around. Now, I don't know what they're doing, but the promotions with the movies, whatever that big summer blockbuster was, hit up McDonald's for lunch and you open up that Happy Meal. It was all part of that time period. It was all part of that chain experience in the 90s we've been talking about. It's funny. See a few comments coming in, but one caught my Dwayne. I see the boo bucket. That's right. I still have my boo bucket from McDonald's, and we still use it for the kids when they go trick or treating. It was all part of that time period of the explosion of 90s chains from Sizzler to Chili's to all the ones I didn't mention. And I think my theory was is that no matter what the experience was, one, I always realized was lucky enough to be able to eat, lucky enough to have a little extra. And places like that provided something special. It made you feel like you weren't just always outside of the gate trying to get in. You know what I'm saying? Like the kind of country club thing. You're not on the out. You were in on it too. And what's great is it kind of democratized the experience because everybody, no matter what, loves. Whether there's always people who don't, but everybody. There's got to be a chain that's everybody loves. Rich and poor alike. Everyone could go and get a late night fry at McDonald's or find that cold chicken leg from KFC or go to that. You know what I'm saying? And there was something to that. You've been listening to Night Stories. I'm Aaron Calafato. I've been your guide. It is 1:27 a.m. Talked about a lot tonight. We crossed over from August 28th into August 29th. We've done a deep dive on 90s chain restaurants, and I think we've netted out where there was something special about them. Yeah, maybe that's not just kind of limited to our memory. Maybe there was that time, right? It's like when you look back on the golden era of movies or the 70s resurgence of independent cinema or now, right, the mid-aught years with the explosion of podcasts and independent audio. It's like I'm in the business I'm in. There's always an era, and I was lucky enough to be alive during that era and tell stories about it to you late at night. That's our show for tonight. Make sure to tune in next week. We'll be streaming September 4th, Thursday, 11:30 Eastern. Tell your friend, tell someone about it, tell a loved one, and we'll keep growing across all these channels. They have a replayable stream on YouTube that if you miss this and you're hearing this for the first time, you got the replayable stream. You could also share this stream once it uploads to the YouTube page. We'll be back next Thursday for more night stories, more conversations with you, more chats, and as usual, we'll see where the story takes us. All right, everybody. Good night.